The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
It's prostitutes to politicians where the real hookers are.
Tonight on Politics Now, Dennis Hof lets loose on Republican lawmakers who won't endorse him and answers questions about sexual harassment allegations.
A county commission candidate requests a recount and loses by even more votes. We'll update you on the details of the commission District E.
What's going to happen to a woman's right to choose? I mean, that's what's at stake.
Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy is retiring. Now the fight over who will replace him begins. The timeline is beginning to take shape.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
One of the nastiest primary races in the country was Assembly District 36, the Republican primary. Brothel owner Dennis Hof won and is a very heavy favorite to win the general election. Thanks for joining us. I'm Patrick Walker.
And I'm Steve Sebelius. I sat down with Hof to ask him about his plans in the legislature and recent sexual harassment allegations from employees of his brothels. Tell me why you're Republican. People think somebody who, as you said, you own several brothels in rural counties in Nevada. People would think that you would be more liberal. You're socially liberal, I take it, but fiscally conservative.
I had this talk last night with my dear friend Ed Goodhart, 3-time assemblyman, great guy. He talked me into doing this after I was whining to Tucker Carlson about this Karma's tax, and he said, well, be part of the solution. Dennis, run for office. Then I went to Eddie. We were talking last night, and I fiscally, I'm very conservative. You know, a small government, low taxes. I signed the tax pledge. They're going to have a hard time dealing with me in Carson City because I'm not raising any taxes. Give me the other side and let me take the expenses out. You can either lower the expenses or raise the taxes. End result is the same. I'm more socially liberal. You know, I come from the live and let live, Nevada, the last home of freedom, if you will, and I really don't want to bother with anybody's sex life, marijuana. I don't want to deal with those issues. Let people live and let live. I got a lot of guns. They got a lot of whatever they want to do. I don't care.
After the election, they started coming out of the woodwork and saying, well, we are not for Hof. Adam Laxalt, Dean Heller, Brian Sandoval, Wes Duncan, who's running for AG, Michael Roberson, who's running for lieutenant governor. All of a sudden, these people are like, what? Dennis Hof, a brothel owner? We can't believe it. What's behind that?
Well, it's interesting because Tax Hike Mike, I talked to him early and said, are you going to support Oscarson? He says, not this time. Because he did before, in 16. I said, not this time. If you see anything, it's got my name on it. I didn't endorse it. Please let me know, and then I'll endorse the winner for the general. Well, he lied. You know, imagine that. He lied about taxes. He lied about supporting me. Sandoval. If Sandoval would have supported me, my voter would have been disappointed. This is the giant tax hiker.
It doesn't sound like you're disturbed at all about not having support of these folks. It doesn't sound like you think you need it.
Half the people in that caucus, I wouldn't want their support. You know, I want the Jim Marchands and the McCarthys and people like that, but half of those people I don't want to be associated with. And, you know, Ed Goodhart told me last night, Dennis, you're the lone wolf caucus. That's who you are, and don't be afraid to go to the other side and talk to both sides, because then they'll come back and say, oh, Dennis, we want you in the club now. Well, I don't want to be in their club. I don't want to be in the pay-for-play club because I can't be bought and I can't be bossed.
Just to be 100% clear about those charges, you denied that there has ever been any inappropriate conduct between yourself and any of the employees of the brothels that you run and any of the guests that have come there.
Absolutely, and we're going to prove it. You know, we're looking at some upcoming litigation. And by the way, during this...
You're talking about defamation litigation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
In light
and
of
it's difficult when you're a celebrity, and it's even more difficult when you're running for office. But we think that we're going to be able to prove some things that are going to be pretty earth-shattering for the other side.
Well, there's a lot more on LasVegasNow.com, including a water issue in Pahrump that Hof wants to solve and a threat to park a $1 million motorhome on the lawn of the Capitol building in Carson City and use it as his office. That's on LasVegasNow.com.
Well, Steve, you interviewed Dennis Hof on Monday, so those sexual harassment allegations that you were talking about were 2009, 2011. They were the ones that came out in the election. We should also point out no charges were ever filed there. The RJ just did a story this week on a rape allegation from 2007. No charges were ever filed, however, in that one as well.
Yeah, that's right. Hof spokesman Chuck Muth told us they didn't even know about that charge until the allegation was published in the Review Journal. But Muth says Hof strongly denies that charge as well and says the main witness denied it happened. And as you pointed out, Patrick, the sheriff never charged Hof in that case either.
Clark County Commission candidate Tick Segerblum won his tight primary election a second time, this one by a few votes more.
Now, the man he beat, Marco Hernandez, had requested a recount, and the recount found 2 additional votes for Segerblum, meaning he won the race by 183 votes. The 2 votes were mail votes and weren't originally counted. Marco Hernandez was backed by the Labor's Union and, in an odd twist, Sheldon Adelson. But for Segerblum, the race isn't over yet. He still has to face Republican Trish Marsh in November, but District E is overwhelmingly Democratic in registration. Democrats outnumber Republicans by nearly a 2-to-1 margin, and there are slightly more voters registered nonpartisan than there are registered Republican. So Segerblum has to be considered the frontrunner. Still, the dynamics might change if the Union or Adelson decide to put more money into the general election campaign.
Also happening this week, Nevada Attorney General Adam Laxalt released the results of a school safety summit he hosted earlier this spring. This is video from that summit back in mid-March. Some of the recommendations from that meeting in the report include increasing patrols by school resource officers, better active assailant training, including working with the FBI, and updating construction designs, which Laxalt says will go a long way toward securing schools.
You know, these are common sense solutions that will make our kids safer. They're all in the category of finding ways to harden our schools.
Laxalt hosted the roundtable with law enforcement and school officials a few days after Governor Sandoval hosted a similar summit with school superintendents. The Attorney General says many of his report's recommendations can be implemented in the near future at little to no cost to schools or to the state.
Well, Senate Democrats are preparing for battle over President Trump's unannounced nominee for the Supreme Court. The president has not said who he will pick to replace Justice Anthony Kennedy, who announced his retirement this week, but hopes to have a nominee early next month.
But Mark Meredith from our Washington, D.C. Bureau explains how the issue of abortion is forcing lawmakers to pick sides even before a nominee is named.
What's going to happen to a woman's right to choose? I mean, that's what's at stake.
Senator Catherine Cortez Masto voices Democrats' biggest fear as President Trump decides who should replace Justice Anthony Kennedy on the U.S. Supreme Court. The president has said in the past he likes judges who are opposed to abortion, and Democrats say President Trump's pick could be the vote that overturns the landmark abortion rights case Roe v. Wade.
We'll be picking somebody, and we'll be hopefully making you very proud.
The president says his nominee will come from a list of 25 names, which the White House has published.
I think we can rely on this president picking an excellent person.
Democrats are demanding Republicans wait until after the midterm elections before holding confirmation hearings. But Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell says hearings will happen well before Election Day. As the minority party, Democrats know they can't stop the debate themselves.
Don't let us turn back the clock, America. Stand up. Speak out.
But Democratic Senator Heidi Heitkamp of North Dakota says Americans shouldn't rush to judgment.
I look forward to knowing who the president's nominee is going to be and providing input in that nomination and getting to know that person better.
The president says he plans to announce his nominee within the next few weeks. In Washington, I'm Mark Meredith.
All right, the big picture, though, Steve, really, if Republicans stick together, there's nothing Democrats can do in this case.
No, you're absolutely right. You know, Harry Reid in 2013 changed the rules for lower court nominees and also for administration appointees, a simple majority to appoint. He left Supreme Court out of that, but in 2017, Mitch McConnell changed the rules for Supreme Court appointments to make that also simple majority. So the Republicans need only 51 votes to confirm whomever the president nominates. So even if they lose a couple and they have Vice President Pence presiding over the chamber, they could probably still get whoever they want in there.
So time sensitive for them in case they lose the majority. That's a big deal.
Absolutely. Yeah, the elections are coming up.
Well, putting more Asian Americans in office.
If you sit back, there's no change going to be made.
I dig into how underrepresented Asian Americans are in political offices here, and the results will probably surprise you.
And our face-off panel takes on the process of confirming the next Supreme Court justice. That's all next as Politics Now continues.